In 325 AD, Emperor Constantine
All right, let's see it.
decided that Christianity was too unwieldy of a religion. It was too complicated, too mysterious. There were too many moving parts.
This is all pure and utter nonsense. None of this had anything whatsoever to do with the convening of the Council of Nicea, which was aimed, 1, at resolving the Arian controversy, 2, at determining a new way to calculate the date of Easter so that people could figure it out wherever they were in the Roman Empire rather than waiting for a festal letter to announce when they were going to hold Easter, and 3, to establish ecclesiastical laws and regulations associated with things like excommunication and things like that.
And it needed to be toned down a little bit, in part to get rid of some of the contradictions. Like, for example, the Trinity. It was driving everybody nuts, right? How does this work? He's what?
This is entirely inaccurate. The problem was the Arian controversy, which was a controversy that had erupted in Alexandria, Egypt, between members of the clergy named Arius and Athanasius. And Athanasius was a proponent of the then contemporary philosophical views about the Trinity, which required that Jesus be equal with God and that Jesus be eternal, that there be no beginning for Jesus. And Arius was a proponent of the more traditional view that was the consensus view in earlier centuries, that Jesus was subordinate to the Father, and that as a created being, there was a beginning for Jesus, and therefore a time when Jesus didn't exist. And so the Council of Nicea was convened primarily to resolve that controversy.
If the Roman Empire is going to use Christianity as a state religion to manipulate people, we as the politician class need to be able to know what Christianity is. How can we manipulate people through religion if we don't understand the religion?
This is also entirely inaccurate. There are no data that support this notion of Constantine deploying a religion as a tool to manipulate people, and that's a thoroughly modern thought process anyway, since the concept of religion as we understand and use the term today is an innovation of the Renaissance, Reformation, and Enlightenment. And in the 4th century CE, they didn't have a concept of a religion that remotely approximates what we understand by the category today. And if you would like more on this, there are a lot of wonderful books that have been published about the development of the concept of religion over the last 60 years.
There were 30 Gospels. They threw 26 away. They ordered them destroyed.
This is entirely made up. The consensus view among Christians had settled on 4 Gospels since the 2nd century CE, and the Council of Nicea had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with any canon debates or with any attempts to suppress any of the other Gospels. But if you would like to see what some of those other Gospels and accounts of Jesus' life were, there's a wonderful volume here that introduces them and provides translations of them.
It didn't quite work. We have the other 26. Most of them were found in Egypt by a farmer who was in the desert digging up phosphorus, and he hit a jar with his shovel, and he heard it crack, and he pulled the jar out, and he saw these leather-bound books.
This is inaccurate. The Nag Hammadi codices were discovered in a graveyard by a teenager, and while that individual has given multiple conflicting accounts of what they were doing there, most scholars think they were probably digging up graves looking for valuables.
And he pulls out the leather-bound books, and he's like, I don't know what these are, but I know who will know. And he was Muslim, he went to the nearby church, the Coptic Orthodox Church, and he handed them to the priest, and the priest went, oh, I know what these are.
The only part of this story that has any basis in reality is the fact that the family that discovered them didn't know what they had on their hands, and according to their own accounts, they burned some of the codices as fuel for fires. But once they figured out they might have something valuable, they split up the codices, they began to sell them to merchants and antiquities dealers, and most of them made their way down to Cairo. Some people took some of the codices out of the country to try to sell them elsewhere, but once authorities figured out what they had on their hands, they made every effort to try to bring them back, and now all the codices are housed in Cairo.
These are the 26 Apocrypha, and the church then immediately declared it a miracle that somehow the 26 Apocrypha had survived. And the Coptic Church claims that all 30 Gospels are legit and rejects the rejection of the 26 Apocrypha. Apocrypha means wrong, Right.
No, not right. This is all entirely wrong. This is all entirely made up, and this is profoundly uninformed. Apocrypha does not mean wrong, it means hidden. And none of these texts were ever considered a part of the Apocrypha, and the Coptic Church has never considered these texts canonical. The fit for this video has been Dipper Pines.